Welcome, one and all, to the new Dragon Age Vidcast. And we are decidedly low-tech once again, with no special edity trickeriness and musicalities. But of course, at least we're actually here. We actually, exist. The video's out there. And literally, it hasn't even been, no chance to record. This video brings you up to date with where the group are, and we've only just run this because we're doing so many other alternative things, as was mentioned in the previous video. We've been playing the Futuristic Risk, was it like the year 22 something, alright? That was interesting. We've been playing a load of Mansions of Madness and other board games, and there's still other board games waiting to be played as well. And I suppose it is important that you do those other things too, because what you've got to be careful of is burnout, and the burnout can happen with the GM, even though it hasn't, because I'm still personally very active, having to work on all the new projects. But the players can burn out, because even though you as the GM, you think, oh, this is very traps based, and this one's abroad, so it feels very different again. Oh, this is an adaptation of. This is a conversion of another module, and this sort of thing. To the players, it might just still be very sameish, because the experience of being the player might just be, I'm still using the same character, rolling at the same stats, using the same powers, abilities, RPing the same personality. So that could be burnout, even if the GM doesn't perceive it's coming. You've got to be very, very careful of that as well, and listen to the fact that the players need to do other things too, not to be too forceful, but to try and make sure your campaign still keeps coming in at least a timely fashion, so that you can run the things you need to when they're still hot off the press. Usually it is about capturing it as well once you've really got that energy going. Because it's very easy to forget what you were thinking at the time when you conceived the original ideas, and the slight sort of nuances. I'm going to have, if they do this, then I'll do that, but if they do that, then I'll do this sort of element. Especially, you don't want to force them along a railroad too much. So a lot of those other thoughts, if there's too much of a break, it might not get run properly. They might not come to fruition. You might not remember so well to be able to produce it. So it's always a tricky political thing, and a group is a democracy. Anyway, rather than talking about it, or talking about it, I'm going to talk about it. So I'm going to tell you what happened here from the session proper. They left off at the tower in Basilisk Fort, and they're about to run up the stairs. So that's exactly what they do. And we've already met Pete's new character, his Dalish elf shape-shifting mage, apostate, of course, who is really keen to prove himself to the group, wants to show what he can do. And we'll get onto him in a sec. But anyway, they run up the stairs and go on in. And there are 3 Herlocks there, and the Alpha, and the Blight Wolf pet of the Alpha, Kurjan, who's, he's taken over the Herlocks in this area. He's taken over this fortification, used it for his means to try and expand the territories. And of course, the guys rush in. One of the Herlocks tries making a run at Castello. He sees him as a nice, easy clothy to pick off, and Castello's super powering down with his arcane missiles that he's doing. He's got a super empowered abilities at firing them off, and the thing goes down before it can get too far. They would have been targeting Karak, but he kept his distance quite nicely. Pete's character, again, the name slips me. Dre, that's it, Dre. I remember now because we were joking about Dr. Dre. but it's spelled something like D-R-A-O-I. Basically just take a bunch of vowels, random ones, mix them up and put them in front of D. You'll have something a bit like that. I don't know. Dre. Okay. And he's made it his policy that when he changes animal form, that he actually speaks the old Celtic for the animal name. And as the magic phrase. Ooh. That's nice for him. So he decided he was going to turn into a wolf and close the distance really, really quickly between him and the others. So he's scampering up to the Herlocks there. Why he quite wants to do that as being a mage, I'm not so sure. Because it wasn't too great him doing that, because the wolf couldn't attack so well. So he got over there and found he just had to change back into the elf form again. And then while he's up there in melee trying to cast spells at that point, it's a bit sort of what you Okay, well, anyway, they decide, oh, we're going to start jumping on the boss, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It wasn't all quite as simple as it seemed, because Kurjan, he had his initiative step, but the Herlocks, they had a separate initiative step, and every time the Herlocks had a go, Kurjan gets another go on their initiative step. It's just a them thing, right? So the players saw that happening and they were like, ooh, oh dear, what do we do about that? I know, let's kill the Herlocks to take away one of his initiative steps. So they're all jumping on him, and Blacktail goes for the wolf. So they start like counter-biting each other. Blacktail's completely kicking his ass, actually, to be honest. And he's dodging really, really well, not even getting hit. And then the problem is that each time a Herlock died, it adds like another attack or damage or whatever to Kurjan's attack. So for each Herlock dead, it adds another D3 damage to his big 3d6 plus 6 output. And of course he was going all out attack when he's attacking. So he, as they're killing Herlocks, he's putting out more damage as well. And there's still another Herlock alive, so Kurjan gets to go again, and this kind of thing. They brought the Herlocks down quite quickly, and there's really not too much to say about that, because it was just sort of sword and slash and spell and the kind of things you'd expect a party fighting a group of Darkspawn like that. But it does illuminate one thing, interestingly, and that is the difference between the group then, even though they were slightly composed differently anyway. Some of them are still the original members, and now, or at least the difference between power levels. Because when they first faced Herlocks, and a little bit after that, even up to the point of Redhold, where Padar died, for example, on the walls, they were a real struggle. Just trying to face 6 Herlocks simultaneously felt impossible. Crazy impossible odds. And it just took everything they had just to hold them, and not all complete total party wipe. Whereas now, they've just blasted 7 Herlocks away, getting up the stairs single file, smash their way into the room, and they kill off these other Herlocks reasonably easily. And they're even surprised by how easily they're doing it, and yet the health hasn't changed. The types of skills that the players have, that is the thing that has changed, and they don't realise how powerful they've become. And it's only now when they get to realise, by facing something that was so difficult before. Now, what I'm anticipating is that later in set 3, hopefully, because set 3 is now level all the way up to 20, that they'll actually improve all the Darkspawn as well. And if they don't, well, I certainly will. Because in my campaign, it's being run currently 2 years before the Blight happens in Ferelden. So they're facing Darkspawn now at these levels, the original levels of Darkspawn as shown in the bestiary. But once the blight starts, I can then bring along, can then up all the stats of the Darkspawn, saying, well, look, this is now blight period Darkspawn. They are all empowered. They are much better. You know, they've got enhanced focus, and they've trained and prepared. Now they've spent this 2 years readying themselves. They're improved. So I just level all of them up accordingly, and I'll just have to in-house do it if Green Ronin don't happen to do it. Because it's no good. You can't turn like Herlocks then into mass spam troops, because it's still got like 30 health, so it still might take a while to chip all of that off, and that's not the sort of thing you want coming in spam now, is it? Well, anyway, now the other thing is they killed this lot. Kurjan, he was tough, but of course with Karak being able to provide the heals, kept the group up just in time. Tanador had a time of it, and I will say that Kurjan hit him repeatedly, over and over, and brought Tanador down and put him to, well, effectively what would be death. But he's the elect of the sky, so it's a killing blow, and the guy's on 1 health instead. And before he could realise to put the blade through him on the ground to finish him, as this is the way that he can actually be finished, the rest of the group managed to jump on him and sort him out. Anyway, they took Kurjan out, and then there was just a Herlock left, and then they all just gangbanged him, and that was done. Pretty easy for them. Incredible to see them doing that with Herlocks and an Alpha who they did struggle with, but he was like, his health and things were pushed up a little bit more as well, because he's effectively a named boss. Tanador gets pulled back up to his feet. It's a pretty rough fight for him. He tanked the fight a little bit too well, maybe. But also, thinking back to it, one thing I still need to do is, back when the ceramic jars went off, you know, in the whole Freeport atrocity, where the bomb went off and Tanador set it off while holding it, and then all the room went up. I still need to properly account for that as a debuff on Tanador. So I'm going to have to do that retroactively. Or at least now, I'll have to do it late. I won't be able to retroactively affect rolls that have been made, of course, but it will have to apply from now. So I'm going to have him, because he would have sustained even more serious injuries than just, oh, the bomb does this amount of damage. Oh my god, you've actually survived it. You know, the dice, you got lucky on the dice. There's more to it than that. If a bomb goes off in front of you, I didn't think carefully enough about it, but it's going to do you some more severe, irreparable damage, isn't it? It has to. It's gone off in your face. You've opened the bloody thing. I mean, it's going to singe your face, isn't it? So there's going to have to be some sort of debuffs there. Probably some sort of communication lacking and such. Maybe something down like that. But definitely Constitution. Probably -1 Constitution, and maybe like 1 or 2 d6 health loss permanently gone. They've all got good health pools anyway. That's one of the things. But it's just another one of those things, that some of the things that make your character aren't always stats that go up. Sometimes they're the things that you lose. So I think that needs better representation. And I'm now feeling a certain way about that. So I'm going to have a word. You won't like that. But I could always say, well, look, if you don't want to take the loss, then you take no loss whatsoever, and the rest of the party can each take that loss instead of you. So each of them. Give him the choice. That's a nice thing to do. Yes. Anyway, they've finished with the place. They came back. They had a bit of a search around, and they found a journal. Costello found a journal with like gold leaf edging, and it made mention somewhat as he was flicking through it, reading it, of a magical stein, and he made mention of that, and Carrick and Tanador had an argument between themselves again. Oh, that's my bloody stein, you lost it, I didn't lose it, blah blah blah. He went on again, the usual thing. And at this point, Dre said, well, I've seen that stein. I know that stein. So they look at him. Okay, you've seen that stein? Yeah. You know, these are dangerous lands. I'll come along with you and help you find the stein, you know. I'll prove myself that I can hang out with a strong group, you know, that'll help keep me alive so that I can do what I need to do too. So, yeah, at that point, he said, right, okay, well, he'd still pissed Carrick off, and Carrick said, well, you know, I still don't have much of a reason to go along with it, because at this point, Carrick was saying, well, I think we should blow it up. And Tanador was very much of the mind, oh, let's detonate the place, the castle, and Dre was saying, oh, no, I'd like it. I want it. You know, don't you guys bloody blow it up. I want it. I'll pay you for it. I'll give you the bloody 9 gold for it. That's a bargain. And they were saying, no, we think it's, you know, it's not good. It's not wise. And 9 gold for the it's a steal, isn't it? And the idea was all like Skyrim style DLC homestead, but no, it seems they didn't want to take advantage of it in that way. Well, Dre certainly did, and they said, "Do you even have 9 gold?" And of course, he's the starting character, so no, he doesn't, and he's maybe got 9 silver if he's lucky. Carrot was insulted by that as well. Carrot getting very, very agitated very easily with people, I've noticed, in character. And he said, Dre said, well, you know, I'll have a search around the place. I'm bound to find 10 gold or something in loot around the castle, and I'll give you that. And Carrick got really, really upset at that and said, you know, what a bloody insult. And yeah, that didn't go so well. And then they decided, all right, I'm going to march him out of here. So the group marched Dre back out of the fort, and Carrick turned around and did his shape earth thing, and he made all of the entrances to the place seal off, completely seal up. And Dre said, now, why have you done that? And he said, because now no one can have it. All right, I've sealed it all up, so no more Darkspawn can get in there. That's what he said. So now we're going to go confront that dwarf that sent us off on this wild goose chase. So they go all the way back to the town. And Dre decides, well, you know, I'm going to have some bloody stern words with him too, because he sent me off to get stuck here. That was obviously how the group met him. He'd gone off on his own previous to meeting the group, you know, had bought the map and ended up here. And well, they tracked the dwarf down. He's just about to leave town, Boris, and Dre has turned into a wolf at this point and goes on up. And they say to him, oh, you're just about to start leaving town. Well, that's a bit interesting. Why were you thinking of doing that? And he said, oh, I'm going to escape from the pressures of business and the sort of thing. But and then they said, oh, you seem surprised to see us back, where you're not expecting us. You know, we've seen where you were leading people, and we want to. Do you know what you were leading them into? And they did the empathy tests, and he answered no, that he honestly didn't when they explained what it was, the fact that it was Darkspawn waiting there at the other end, and they were turning people into ghouls. And he was genuinely shocked by that, and didn't understand that was the degree of the implications given. And so at that point, Dre, in his wolf form, goes up to the dwarf, pretty much right from the beginning, actually, of the conversation, before Costello could properly engage him in conversation as he was trying, and bit him on the ankle. And he goes down, he's sort of bleeding, and he's at this point he's got the crowds on his side, which isn't great, because it's harder for them to make their point, and he's like pointing at the wolf and saying, "Look, this bloody wolf, it's just bit me," and all this sort of thing. And the guards come along then, and he then approaches the dwarf, and he's about to bite him again or do something. Costello whacks him on the head, and he doesn't listen to that, so he's still going to go after the dwarf to bite him again, just to make sure he can't run away. Was his argument there, not to actually properly do him injury, or intimidate him so that he'll talk quicker. It's a bit out there, isn't it? And he wouldn't listen to Costello, so Costello paralyzed him with his stare. And at that point, he was just in wolf form, point, just sort of stuck there like that. And the guards come along, and they say, "Right, we're gonna cut this bloody wolf down." Okay, and this is one of those moments where everything has to happen as it would. You can't intervene as the GM. Okay, the player's got himself in this situation, and if they'd have left it, then the town guards, militia would come along and literally, cut him down. It's a wolf in the middle of the village, cut. He's obviously just bitten someone, put it down. It's wandered in, wild beast. But just at the nick of time, Karak steps in and saves Dre's life by saying, "No, he's with me. I'm a Grey Warden, as you can see. He's officially sanctioned to come with me as a representative, and he's fine." And they said, "Well, we can't just leave him in the town." He says, "Yeah, he's not used to being around people. He doesn't want to explain that it's a shapeshifter. He's just saying it's a wolf. The Grey Wardens will implement and use anything at their disposal to get the job done." Luckily, this guy still sort of believed in their cause somewhat, even though a lot of the land don't. And they decided they were going to chain him up to a tree, still paralysed. So they chain him to the tree, where he can't hurt anybody, and he's still stuck in that form, chained up. Funny stuff. So yeah, then they go and speak to Boris, and it just comes to the point where Boris says, "Well, look, just give me the 9 gold and it's yours. I didn't know it was all going to come to this." And they said, "Look, 9 gold, that's a bit bloody cheeky. We want danger pay, Look what you did. We're gonna have to bloody sort you out ourselves." And then he started to feel severely intimidated. The group are all around him at the bar, and he says, "Look, all right. Look, I'll go fetch you the deed. Okay, I'll go give you it for free. How about and you just not say anything to anyone about this?" And they say, "Well, we want the deed, but you're not going to be able to get away for free. There's going to be a consequence." So anyway, they recover the deed off of him, and the only issue is that it was built under Orlesian occupation, and that means that the present ownership within, obviously, a different country's monarch. Now, would the deed still be applicable? I don't know. That's for other people to try and figure out. And Karak said, "Well, no, we don't want the thing. We don't want the place. I want to hand it in to the warden." So he found a Templar base, the Chantry, handed it into the Templars there, and said, "Make sure this is passed on to the Grey Wardens. They're going to need it." Okay. Of course, the problem is that the Templars probably won't do that. They'll probably pass it on to the Templar Order, and then one of the higher ups will decide, "No, screw the Grey Wardens. We are having that and using that as a fortification for ourselves." Even though retroactively said, "Oh, okay, well, I'll give it to the Wardens." It's kind of too late, because he already came along and said he's giving it to them, so he's giving it to them. As for Boris, they hand him into the authorities. They explain to the authorities what he's done, how he's endangered people's lives. And so, of Viddies again. And then they have to try and recover Dre out of the tree somehow, somewhere. And then that leaves us with them getting a missive to return to Denerim, to House Baranti, where Lady Baranti wants to speak to them. And she says, look, I need you to go get Garviel. You've seen the House of Traps videos, I assume. This is all the lead up. That's the lead up going into this. I need you to go get him. He's the prominent, eminent trapsmith of the world. And I want him to tell my agents all of his secrets to his traps, so that we can negotiate his traps easily. We can get the information. I want him working exclusively, secretly, for me. And the group just agreed to it, just like that. You know, Baranti's being evil again. She's got them in the grip of her hand, and you know they're the good guys, the good guys, and good guys. But whenever it's Baranti that wants something evil, you know, they step to her beat, so she can get them to do things. And once again, it's proving that this good group are being told to go in, find Garviel, the trapsmith, and bring him against his will to her, to kidnap him essentially, and so that she can persuade him to come bring him on board as one of her staff. Oh dearie me. And just to leave you completely up to date here, the group said, yeah, okay, that will be interesting actually. A trapsmith, his house should be really, really trapped. He's here in Denerim, okay, here's the address. And at that point, Dre said, I want to prove myself. I'll go in and do it solo. I'll recover him. I'll show you what I can do, everybody. The group said, all right, that sounds fun. We'll see how that works out. So, it was decided. Dre's going to go off, the shapeshifter, and solo it. So basically, he's going to get to sort of like try and beta test my original setup. Then if he gets captured and or dead, then the team can come along and follow up afterwards. Try and find him or his remains or whatever if it's all gone wrong. At this point, though, Costello wouldn't let it just be like that. He said, no, I'm coming with you. I'm coming with you. I can't let you kill yourself going in there like that or mess all of this up. Of course, Costello doesn't completely agree with Lady Baranti's method of doing things either. So he wants to go along to try and make sure that this is worked out properly and fairly. So he wants to be first in. So hell, the two of them could get killed if they go together, and it's just going to be them. But you know, Dre said, look, I want to kind of go in on my own. That's kind of the point of it. So we don't know if he's going to try and lose Costello along the way, and like obviously roles would be made in an attempt to work that out. But you know, it's going to come to the point where either one or two of them will go into the place and run it solo or duo. So either way, it's going to be interesting, and that should be the next session coming up with just some of the party doing Garviel's house. So now I just got to get moving and try and finish it up in readiness. All right, well, that brings us up to date. You know where we are now, and I will see you at the next one.